Welcome, everyone, to the Undergraduate Researcher panel. We'll get started in just a minute. We're going to let folks trickle in. We just want to thank you all for being here to hear from our panelists. All right, folks, we just want to remind you that this is a virtual event and that this event is being recorded. Please mute yourself for the optimal experience. And if you have any questions, you can use the chat feature or unmute yourself when you're invited by me. For those of you that are UROC scholars, so the Undergraduate Research Opportunity Program scholars and WILP scholars, we just want to remind you that in order to get credit for this event, you're required to fill out this form at the end of it. As well as if you have any questions, you can always visit our website at our.utah.edu/URES. You are here for the Office of Undergraduate Research Education Series event, and our mission is to facilitate and promote student and faculty collaboration across the disciplines at the University of Utah. We also want to acknowledge the land that feeds and sustains us. Our land, which is named for the Ute tribe, is a traditional and ancestral homeland of the Shoshone, Paiute, Goshu, and Ute tribes. The University of Utah recognizes and respects enduring relationship that exists between many Indigenous peoples and their traditional homelands. We respect the sovereign relationship between tribes, states, and the federal government, and affirm our institution's commitment to partner with Native nations and urban Indian communities through research education and community outreach activities. So my name is Dr. Annie Isabel Fukushima. I am the Associate Dean of Undergraduate Studies at the University of Utah. I am joined by a wonderful group of panelists. We are joined here by America Cox, who is a biology philosophy science major. Wave your hand so they know who you are. Kalista, Leggitt, who's biology, health society, policy, and international studies major, as well as Nopper, who's a chemistry and biology major, and Kishan, Thambu, who is also a computer science major. So we are so excited to get their perspectives, to hear from them about undergraduate research mentoring experiences. So I'm going to ask a series of questions. I'll call our colleagues to answer them. After we do a series of questions, we'll invite the audience to ask questions that you might have. I just want to thank Shelley Parker, who is managing the logistics. And so she will go ahead and follow up with any chat questions you might have and make sure that we all know what questions are emerging. But before we invite the audience to ask questions, we're going to go ahead and invite our speakers to just say a little bit about themselves. So don't forget to say your names just in case if they already forgot who you are. As well as just say a little bit about yourself, introduce yourselves, your major, your minors. We've already told them about that, but if you could say your year and your academics, as well as if you can tell us about the research you've been involved in here at the University of Utah. So tell us what you've been involved in. And we'll go ahead and go in the order down this way, starting with Kishan, and we'll head right down the road.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kishan. I am a current undergraduate student at the University of Utah. I'm in my 5th year, and I just finished computer science, but this is opposite up there, but I'm finishing up my biology degree this year. And so a lot of my research has been involved with using computational methods and techniques within the field of like medicine and biology and whatnot. And so I have a wide range of different research experiences, and I think most recently my research experience was utilizing large language models and AI models to better understand and find therapeutic modalities by representing a therapy chatbot and a patient chatbot and seeing if we can discover anything from that. And the way I got involved with that is I took a class through a professor named Adamar Sovich, and I started off with a project in that class, and then we continued working on that project. But then after that, this led to, I told her about my interests and how I wanted to be in the field of both psychiatry and also computer science. And she came up with an idea for this particular project, and we worked together this past semester.
Hi, my name is Kalista Leggitt. As mentioned, I do biology, health society, policy, and international studies. I'm currently a 3rd-year student undergrad here at the U. And my research opportunity stems from a class I took my first semester in college, so freshman year, fall semester. I took a bioethics class with a well-loved professor, Professor Matt Faber. And then after the class was finished, I was approached by him and a couple other members of the class to start a Europe. And then to make a long story short, I've been working with Professor Haber for the past almost like 3 years, I'd say now, 2.5, something like that. But my current project focuses on reviewing pediatric autonomy, considering adolescents as their own ethical agents, and investigating the presence of childism in our current medical standards of practice. So that's me.
Hi, my name is Nopper. I'm currently a senior, double majoring in chemistry and biology. I currently have been doing organic chemistry research for the past 2 years. I initially was cancer bio, and then I decided after taking organic chemistry one that was more the path that I wanted to go to, and I wanted to try chemistry, wet lab experience. And so I've been working there for 2 years now in Dr. Andrew Robertson's lab. And I reached out to a bunch of professors, and one of the emails I received was a recommendation of a bunch of labs that were specifically within chemistry, and his was one of them. So I was interviewed and then accepted into his lab. What we do mainly small molecule synthesis and peptides. I'm on the small molecule synthesis team, and we're making 2,2-paracyclophenes, which is like a rigid kind of molecular structure that can be used for organic metallics later on. So that's what I'm working on.
Hi guys, I am America Cox. Again, I'm majoring in biology and philosophy of science. The research that I've been involved with at the University of Utah is with the Dentinger lab. So I work with PI Dentinger, both at the university and the Natural History Museum of Utah on ecological and evolutionary history of fungi. I first joined the lab through the Access program. So that is a program for gender minorities in STEM run through the College of Science for incoming freshmen. So I have been working with this lab for nearly 4 years, as I'm a fourth-year student now because I joined my freshman year. And my main project that I work on is the co-evolutionary relationship between ants and some fungal gardens that they have. There's certain species of ants that depend on essentially agriculture to different fungus. And I look at the chemical ecology to see what dictates their relationship and how the ants choose a certain type of fungi.
Wow. So much interesting research happening. Also, lots of words I didn't always understand. Totally cool folks. I have a PhD here, so I like to think I'm pretty smart. But we have really awesome research happening with our undergrads, and we know folks in the audience are also probably getting involved in it or interested in it. But one thing I would love if you could tell us, what is your favorite part about doing research? And if there's like this very specific moment of where you had an aha moment when you were doing research, where, you know, the light bulbs went off. And we're going to start with Kalista.
Okay. Like I mentioned before, I've been working on this project a while. And when you work on a project for a long time, I feel like ideas pop up, ideas go away, especially since my research is mainly in like humanities. So it's a lot of literature review, uncovering, discovering things. Probably my aha moment happened for me in these last couple months, actually, because I resumed my research when school started back up. And my aha moment was that I don't need to kind of like focus on the entire space. Like I said, I do ethics research, and that can get really overwhelming at times. So my aha moment was just when it kind of clicked and I figured out how I wanted to define my research space, kind of like hone in on some other stuff. Specifically when I started reading literature about childism, it kind of just brought all the ideas that I wanted to talk about together. And that kind of happened really just recently in my like 2.5-year journey. So it's a process, but I'm really happy I'm here.
Yeah, America.
Yeah, so my aha moment was a little bit earlier on when I got my first data set, because before being involved in research, I knew that science was something that I wanted to actively participate in, but it was kind of this amorphous blob. I didn't know what that looked like and what it meant to be a part of a research project. So when I was in there and I'm just like pipetting small clear liquids into little bits of other small clear liquids, I was like, I have an idea of what I'm doing, but when I got my data set and I could then talk about and communicate it, because I love science communication as well, that was the thing of like, oh, I did something that I can now communicate and elaborate on this scientific theory.
Emily.
I would say my favorite part of research in general is just the creativity for specifically organic synthesis. You have a lot of like trial and error, which can be frustrating at times, but honestly, it's one of my favorite parts once you actually like, get it correct. And then also just the collaboration with my entire team and my PI, obviously. There's a bunch of grad students, other undergraduates that I work with. So it's super interdisciplinary within that team. And I would say my aha moment's pretty similar to America's. It was my first reaction that I had that was printed on one of the subgroup updates that we had. And just seeing my like name next to the reaction that I actually could describe and that I had done, was really exciting for the first time. And now obviously I do subgroup updates like every week, but that first one was really exciting.
Yeah. I think initially, so when I first did wet lab research, in a biochemistry lab, I realized I hated wet lab. And so, I like sort of tuned towards like computer science and computational methods because, I just don't have the patience for it, but also, I know like, I don't have to wait on things and I can get things done in a lot quicker time. And it made research a bit more exciting, especially at the beginning, that I could get sort of the ideas that I wanted out a lot quickly and to see these projects like go to completion a lot quickly as well. So I would say like my aha moment was realizing sort of what I'm interested in within research, and that came from doing something different that I didn't expect to do. Just doing the wet lab research, but and then switching over to computer science and computational research, and also better understanding my niches within that field and what exactly I like within computer science.
Yeah, so as folks are hearing, folks were discovering things that they liked, things that they don't like. Those are all super meaningful, and you're discovering also like what you can do and the depth of your skills. And so let's kind of think through. Research brings up all kinds of feelings. We know that it can be frustrating, exciting. It can be confusing. All kinds of feelings can really come up. And so, but was there time, whether before, you're doing research, so when you're connecting with mentors or while doing research, where you felt like, which I think some of our undergrads oftentimes might feel like feelings of whether it's anxious, scared, or intimidated. Like we just kind of want to acknowledge that, yes, sometimes research and entering it or doing it can be those feelings. So can you tell us about that moment that you kind of felt one of those feelings? You don't need to go through it all. You probably experienced all of it at some point. But if you could share with us, like when you felt those feelings of anxious, scared, or intimidated, and what did you do to overcome it? Yeah, and so we're going to actually start with Abby.
Okay. I would say mine was during research. I would say, obviously before I was anxious reaching out to professors, but my main one was probably during research when I first started and was doing more complex reactions as it wasn't familiar with. And one of them is called like a pyrophoric reaction. So any of the chemicals, if they are exposed to air and water, they will like ignite. And so coming from someone with no really wet lab experience before, that was something that was super nerve wracking. I didn't want to mess up. I didn't want to, waste material. And so kind of to overcome that, first of all, I had to be like supervised by my grad student, but I also made sure to like read on like the SDS, like the safety information, and try to do more research on my own while also collaborating with the grad student to make sure I felt comfortable doing it. And then when I was doing the actual reaction, like after the first time, once you start like doing it multiple times, like obviously it gets easier. And so now it's like exciting to do, but at first I didn't feel like I was like cut out for that to do a reaction of that magnitude. So yeah.
Yeah, and now you're going to be going on to get a PhD soon. Yeah, Kishan, you're up next. Yeah.
Yeah, I think with research in general, there's always a feeling of like imposter syndrome, especially as an undergraduate student. You don't know that as much as the other experts in your field, or especially within your lab, as like postdocs or PhDs or your PI. And so, I think, especially at the beginning, I've always had this feeling like, okay, I just don't know anything. I don't know enough. Like, I can't meaningfully contribute. But, I think over time, as long as, like, one of the things I realized is, like, if you're putting, like, intentful thought into it and effort to learning, like, what you're doing, you start getting better at it, and you start better understanding at least that specific, subfield. And, Like anything that you learn, even if it's unrelated, can come back to help you out and be useful later on. So I think that's sort of the approach I've taken, because especially now, like I still have that feeling sometimes of I don't know enough, or I don't know, like my input is meaningful. But I think by continually putting enough effort and energy to learning the material and to giving it thought, that you may have like one good idea or a few good ideas, or be able to contribute meaningfully to that aspect.
Yeah, and Kishan has lots of research experience, very long resume of stuff. But even professors feel imposter syndrome too. So you're naming something that's really right. America.
Yeah, the first thing that stood out to me, I remember being super anxious the first time ever meeting with my PI, because they're like, oh, let's have you meet with them and then see if you're a right fit for the lab. And I was practically shaking. I was on the Zoom meeting because I was like, I don't know if I'm built for this. I don't have experience in this. But now I can tell you that they're the nicest people ever, and there was no reason for me to be nervous. And so in preparing for that, it's like, talking to other people and seeing what their experiences are like, meeting with PIs, and just other people going through different interview processes and understanding that they're there to listen to you and see what you want to think. Because that was the one thing that surprised me when they were like, well, what do you think about it? I was like, I'm 18. Why are you asking me what I think? You've been doing this as long as I've been alive. Like, you shouldn't be asking me. So yeah, just going through and familiarizing myself with the process is kind of what calmed me down, but I was definitely anxious to dive deeper.
Yeah, I appreciate that you brought up this kind of like, we can sometimes feel feelings about meeting folks. And I think there's like a myth of the professor as this superhuman, or I don't know what students think of us, but we're regular people, we're weird, we're strange, we have faults and all of that. So yeah, Kalista.
I kind of just want to piggyback a little bit off Kishan. I definitely felt a lot of imposter syndrome when I first started my research, especially in like the field of philosophy. It's very categorical, and there's already a lot of literature and like papers and everything out. And so I think maybe one of the hardest things to overcome is just kind of getting comfortable with the idea that you have something to contribute, because no one is going to have your same background, your same perspective, your same outlook. And what you contribute to your research is unique because you are unique. And I think that's just fundamentally something really important when it comes to research, especially as an undergrad, when you do work with grad students and like postdocs and lots of other people.
I love that. Yeah. So hearing that, folks, I hope you're all getting it and getting the message that you matter in research. You really do. Your faculty, all of you, you're working in these projects, whether they're collaborative or independent. You're part of these things that you're really helping to shape the future of science or society in general. Okay, so let's just do a quick time check. While you all are really fast talkers over here, you are welcome to take a breath and slow things down and all of that wonderful stuff. But really, we have an audience of folks who may have want to get some insights into getting advice. But before we get into the advice, let's kind of go through some of the questions that we received. So we've kind of had you talk about the feelings with research, but I guess one of the things is, because you talked about feelings, but was there a challenge with research that you had to overcome? And does anyone want to take that question as like, you had a challenging experience with research, and then how did you overcome that? Not just the feelings.
Yeah.
Talk about feelings. Yeah.
I'll take it first. Yeah. So, the big, barrier for me getting into research is kind of like jargon and scientific literature. The first paper that got handed to me, I was like, I only understand every third word. I don't quite get this. And so the biggest thing that, it sounds super simple and people say it all the time, but it really is important to ask for help and let people know, like ask questions and be like, I actually don't understand what any of this means. And so I remember going to my mentor now, Dr. Kendra Autumn, and she was like, yeah, you haven't taken a single college biology course. I don't expect you to get this, so let's walk through it. And I remember later on then being in a meeting and I could understand these words, and I was like, oh, I remember like last year I wouldn't understand anything that they're saying. So sometimes it's those like hard skills in practicing and learning that jargon for the fields. That's really difficult. You just have to keep your head up and just admit that you don't know stuff, which is really hard because we want to be researchers that know everything. But yeah.
But research is about being curious because we don't know something. We're solving things. And I love that you were able to lean on your mentors to help you kind of find the resources and all of that. Yeah. Does anyone else want to take this? We'll just take one more person and we'll kind of go through a couple more. But yeah, Sean's ready for challenging. There we go. Yeah.
I think like towards my sophomore year, I joined a lab in computational psychiatry, and it's like sort of the research area and like what the work that the PI was doing was like really what I wanted to do. And so when I was doing it, I realized that I just didn't know like a lot of anything at all when it came to the field of like deep learning or specific like computational techniques within that, and that everything was so advanced and over my head. And so I did my best to learn as much as I could in those like 1 or 2 years, but then I realized like that maybe this is not the most worthwhile of my time because I'm not I don't feel comfortable here, and I don't feel like that I'm learning as much as I want to be, and I don't feel confident in myself. So I lean on to other different like research experiences, and I think these have been helpful in building my confidence in terms of my research skills and my skill sets. And I think now, like if I were to go back to that area or whatever it may be, then I have a much better understanding as to how to approach a specific problem with like these specific techniques of computer science. So
yeah, awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I want to, not everyone has worked with graduate student mentors. Can you raise your hand if you work in teams with graduate students? Okay, great. Totally fine. Sometimes, folks, you'll find that the mentoring dynamics will be a team of one, right? Your professor. And sometimes it will be a multi-team model. So then you'll have like graduate students or other undergrads in the team, and maybe sometimes even community partners, depending on the kind of project. And so one of the questions from the audience is that they wanted to know, for those of you who worked primarily with the graduate students at times in your research experience, how did you build a relationship with the PI? Yeah, so I'm like staring at Allie. Yeah. Yeah.
I would say because we do have our group is structured that we have group meetings every Wednesday, and then that's the whole group, and then we have subgroup meetings, which we have about 2 or 3 separate subgroups. So both of those are specifically with the PI, but my PI also has been really great with having time for one-on-one meetings and things like that. Super like available on email, texting, everything. Like if you have any questions, he's available. And I feel like whenever I had a question, whether it was like applying to grad school, poster presentations or things like that, he was always super supportive and I could reach him. And so through asking those kind of questions, I've been able to build a relationship with him and also my grad student too.
Did anyone else want to, respond to that too? Anything else?
Yeah, I'll just kind of piggyback off of that because when I started project, I was working directly with the grad student, and then now I'm working more with the PI as people have graduated and things are shifting. And so at first, it was kind of hard for us to get our weekly meetings down on people's schedules, so I really didn't interact with my PI as much. The majority of the time that I did, it was through the grad student who saw them. But they are super supportive and are there for questions, and they reiterated that. And that was a challenge for me because I was like, they're this really big, cool person in this field of research. And it's kind of intimidating to go and talk to them, which now I'm like, they're again the nicest person ever. I shouldn't have felt that way. But so just reaching out to them can kind of be the way to do it. And it might be scary, but it's worth it.
Great. There's another question here about preparing for graduate school. And I just want folks in the Zoom room, on the online, watching this after the event is posted to know that, undergraduate research, is an experience, and some people may decide to go into graduate school. Some may decide to go into workforce, right? So there's a variety of pathways that you can go after you have these experiences, whether it solidifies you're like, yeah, I want to do that thing for the rest of my life, or you're like, nope, as Kishan was sharing, no, thank you, pivoting to this other direction. But I would love for those of you that maybe, and let's keep in mind this is an undergraduate panel, right? So there is no expectations. But for those of you that are preparing applications this year, have you sought out support from folks and on your applications? What did that look like? And so does anyone want to share that? Lindsay's like already raising her hand. Yeah.
I think maybe one of the most valuable parts of having a mentor to me was just being able to ask questions like that. Like I was able to sit down with my mentor and be like, hey, how do I make a CV? What should be on my CV? How do I like label this research on my CV in a way that, makes sense? I think just having a person that's been through a lot of stuff, has a lot of that like experience, has been, through all of the different stages of getting degrees. It's very helpful just to ask like what I would consider stupid questions, but there's really no stupid question like that. Once you have a relationship with your mentor, they're really there to help you with whatever they can. And it's really nice.
And for the CV, just in case if folks don't know what that is, it's called curriculum vitae. It is a very specific genre of resume that has everything in the kitchen sink of academics, whereas a resume is a shorter form genre, right? So much more, it just varies based on field expectations. And a CV in philosophy will look very different than in biology, chemistry, or engineering. And so I like that you're bringing that up, that you're seeking them out, because they are the ones who are going to know what's kind of expected of their field. Kishan, you were already,
Yeah, I think one of the great things about having a mentor in research is that they're also a resource network, and the number of people they know within the field to connect you to other opportunities, or with other, like, not within their field, but in other fields as well. It doesn't have to be the PI, like other graduate students and PhDs. You can lean on that to ask them advice for these like graduate applications, or ask them advice for like what internships or research programs they apply to. And, you can just tell your PI, like, hey, like, these are my career goals and this is what I want to do later on in my future. Like, if you do find something similar to this, or if you know anything similar related to this, then please let me know. And it's like one of the best like resource networks you can have, because they'll also vouch for you.
Yeah. Did anyone else want to add to the graduate school preparation of mentors, of leaning on your faculty mentors or your graduate student mentors, or your peer mentors too, right? Like, you're all also like leaning on each other. Did anyone else want to add to that?
I can. Sorry. I guess not only did I use like my grad students PI and everything, but I also used some of like the resources on campus too, like the student success coaches, the career coaches, specifically for like the CV and resume things. But I would say my mentor was super helpful. Like they already mentioned, like weekly meetings or like monthly meetings of kind of the timeline of me applying to graduate school, and having basically the whole lab proofread every single document that I wrote. That was really nice to have multiple eyes on it, not just mine.
Yeah. Thank you for plugging the student success coaches, which are also part of the undergraduate studies family. So shout out to those folks who sit over there and connect with students.
I was actually going to say the exact same thing. I have a meeting with the career coach next week. So yeah, there's that, but then other offices and people are willing to help you. I know the Center for Student Access and Resources. I am involved with them, formerly known as the Center of Equity and Student Belonging. So if you're familiar with that office, they had to pivot, and now they're called CSAR. So there's other people that will do it. The only thing that I would recommend you keep in mind with that is sometimes I'll go to someone from a different office and they're like, yes, there's this, but also I don't know what it's like in your specific field. And there might be some of those niche differences. So for sure, don't just use one. Use all of these resources. They're all there for you, and you can get little tips and tricks from everyone.
Wonderful. We're going to pivot a little bit because actually, so, we've been looking ahead to the future, but let's maybe look not so far ahead. Because actually somebody in the audience has a really good question. And what they wanted to know is about summer plans, right? And so they're like, have any of you had to decide between working in your lab over the summer versus taking an internship somewhere else? If so, what did you decide to do in the summer? So yeah, does anyone want to talk about your decisions for summer and all of that? Because that's right. Sometimes you may or may not continue on with the thing in the summer. So who wants to talk about that?
I can. So I've had the opportunity to do an REU program, which stands for Research Experience for Undergraduates. It's an NSF-funded program, and you can look up, there's a bunch of different ones through different fields that you can apply to, essentially that pays for you to go and get research experience at another institution. I had an amazing time. I would recommend it. But there was kind of that thing that's like, oh, I really love the project that I'm working on, and I would love to think the amount of time that I could be working in the data that I get from those. But the thing that I considered was the different skills that I could learn. And also, when you're in one research group, there's one research setting that you're becoming familiar with. So I really wanted to diversify not only my skills, but the just function of day to day, think in a different community, and develop that way. And then I can bring the skills back here to keep working on my project.
And so the NSF REUs that America referred to, we actually also have those here at the University of Utah. So you can apply for an NSF REU or summer program for undergraduate research. Shout out to Angie Leva, who runs that program. Is you're also welcome to apply for those opportunities, for summer opportunities. And it is encouraged that, yes, you diversify your experience, but some people do have long-standing partnerships with their research team. So it really is, I think, an individual decision. But yeah, who else wants to share? Yeah, about their summer. I think you've all done stuff in the summer. Yeah, who wants to go ahead? I can go next.
Yeah, I was definitely deciding between, like you said, sticking with your research that I've been doing, because at that point I've been doing it for about a year and a half. Versus I applied via the learning abroad to go to Germany. And so that was for a chemistry program, which is chemistry research for 3 months in Germany. And, like America said, it kind of was like, do I want to diversify my skills, or do I want to stay on this project I really like? And I chose to diversify and just see, because I was going to do polymer chemistry, which is something I haven't done before. And so I thought that was exciting to kind of mix that and then already my expertise in small molecule synthesis. And so it turned out to be great. I learned a lot and was able to do chemistry in a different language, which was really exciting. And kind of gain more skills, different ways to purify things, different ways that they have technology wise. Yeah. And, I wouldn't take back that experience. I think it was great. And I came back and just continued working on the projects I have, but kind of with a new lens from the summer.
So you took, you learned German. Just to clarify to folks, that you didn't deep dive in a language you did not.
No.
Yeah. Although it happens to people that go to countries when they don't know the language, that does happen too, and there are opportunities to go abroad for that too. Did anyone else want to talk about your summer plans? Yeah.
I don't have summer plans. And
for this summer, but maybe
this summer.
Yeah.
Oh, last summer?
Yeah. There are many summers. Yeah.
My summers aren't as exciting as either of yours. My summer, I just stayed here, did very local research. Around, I think 2 summers ago, I actually went to a conference. I think that's the part of research people don't talk about, is how to get your research out and share it with people. But I actually went to a research conference in Boulder, Colorado, called Rocky Mountain Ethics Congress. It was super exciting because we were the first undergrads to ever present there. So it's very monumental. And I feel like I learned a lot. Just a lot of conferences and stuff like that will happen over the summer because it's more accessible to everybody, because these people know that there are undergrads, grad students that are doing the research and they need to be in class full time. So yeah, that was a super cool experience for me. I'm super lucky that I had that opportunity presented to me, was able to apply and get accepted with my mentors. So
Yeah, and so folks, you don't have to busy your entire summer with more research. It sounds like there's other opportunities. Kishan, did you want to share anything you've done fun in the summer? I feel like you travel a lot, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my summers widely vary. I think, like, for example, one summer I like to stay here and I did research, and I was like one of the most productive I've ever been, just because without classes, it's a lot easier to focus on research, so that I was able to like finish a project within that summer. So that was really nice. And then, last summer I sort of took a break from school and research because I've been doing it almost like every semester during school. And so, just sort of like different things. But I still like the opportunity to like learn on my own and like research, like, spend some time in my free time, just like reading about materials and reading papers as well. And so, yeah, I mean, I haven't gone to any like summer programs, but, I'm applying to some, like, to a few abroad right now, and I hope to diversify my skill sets there. But yeah.
Yeah, on one thing that I didn't think about, because I also want to say that it's great to diversify your skills, but it's also okay to just try something to see if you like it and pivot. Because one of my dear friends that I love so much, that she was in the research project with me over this last summer at another institution, she came back and she was like, I actually realized that this is super cool, but it's not what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And I'm going to take these skills and apply it somewhere else. So of course, apply to something that you're interested in, but don't get down on yourself and be like, oh, maybe I don't belong here, or if I'm not thinking of doing this for the entirety of my life, use it to try new stuff.
Yeah. And sometimes professors will use the summers just to focus on reading and writing, because we don't always have the time to really write in our academic years when we're teaching and doing a lot of administrative tasks. Wonderful. Let's open it up to the audience. There is one final question that I'll ask you all, but let's kind of give it a moment and just see, are there any questions from the Zoom room audience? Would you like to ask our speakers any questions about their research experiences? There is no question that is too small or too big for these lovely folks to answer. So any questions from the room? Oh, this is a great question. Yeah, I love this question. How do you deal with conflict in research with a mentor or other lab members? And so maybe you can give an example. So, because there's all kinds of conflict. So, and we are going to keep people's identities confidential, so we will not say anybody's name. Okay, Kishan, you're excited.
Yeah, I think so. In my undergrad experience, I've worked with a lot of different mentors, and so there have been good mentors and mentors that I think I face some conflict with. I think one of the best things you can do is first be professional about anything. Even if there is conflict, make sure you aren't doing anything that do not burn any bridges. You want to make sure that you keep contacts and you keep like a positive relationship with that mentor. And moving forward, I think one of the best things you do is you can just ask advice from other people just to see how you can proceed forward in the best way possible. And then if it gets to a point where you feel like, maybe your learning experience, your research experience will not be the same, or if it's hindered, then it's okay to find a new mentor or to switch over completely. And I think, yeah, that's totally fine. So I think conflict is, it's going to happen to some point, maybe not with PIs, but with undergraduate students or with other people you work with. And one of the things you can do is just learn, it's good experience just learning, how you interact with people, especially at a team level. Yeah.
Did anyone else want to have, yeah?
The most common form of conflict I've encountered is just when working with grad students or other students. I think in every field, some people just really want to show off how smart they are. They'll use very complicated language, kind of talk a lot, talk fast. And I think just the best thing you can do is just try to learn as much as you can. There's not really anything you can gain from taking it personally, being oh, well, they're intentionally trying to confuse me. They're not. You can kind of just ask questions and try to navigate it as best you can. That's what I would do.
Yeah. Anyone else? I'm sure everyone has had some form of conflict.
This one I really only had from like fellow undergraduates, because that's also important to not burn those bridges there, because you still might have to work with them or for whatever reasons, because friendship is better. But people that verbatim said this, everybody stop, because I need to say something that I know and none of you don't. And that moment I was like, wow, that's really putting yourself up there, that you think that I guess essentially someone that looks down on you or does that, know that they're going to think what they're going to think, and you can continue doing your stuff, and you know that you're adequate with that, so don't really let it affect you, and you can have your own opportunities, whether it's conferences or just by yourself writing up a paper that you know what you know.
And so, yeah. I guess one of the things that I've noticed, not necessarily in my lab, but just open summer, just in general, is that some people, I feel like you need to remember kind of the role that you're in. Like, you are an undergrad and you are privileged to be able to participate in undergraduate research. So you kind of have to remember your place at certain times, of knowing that there are people in the room that are past your knowledge, and that are have worked longer, have worked harder than you so far because of where they are in life, and just have respect for them and when they're speaking, and also obviously your PI too. So kind of just remember that you really don't know much right now. Even if you think that you do know a lot, you all, even at the beginning of grad school, you still don't know that much. And the rest of your life, you'll still be learning. So I think just to remember that you're always learning. It's not just done at a certain time.
Yeah, and one thing I just want to share, I appreciate that. All of your comments are wonderful. And I just want to share with folks in the audience is that conflict can come up in a variety of ways for a variety of reasons. When you think about it, those of you that are doing research, you're in a work environment. And so then that doesn't mean it's free of conflict. It can be from personality differences to real ethical things happening. And one of the things you should know is if there's something that is really an ethical quandary, whether it is a Title IX issue, so some kind of discrimination happening. There is the offices that are committed to supporting our community with Title IX issues with the EOE at the University of Utah. We also want you to know that sometimes a conflict may be a power dynamic, and it's with your mentors or your professors. And it's really encouraged that you seek out other senior colleagues to help you think through that, because the fact is that you may find that you're feeling like it's a conflict and they're literally not even thinking about it. And so you want to make sure that if you think there's conflict arising, you're getting that kind of other feedback from other folks, that feedback loop. So then you really know if it is a real concern, how do you move forward? Because sometimes it's just a communication style. I've had to tell my team, I don't have time to really soften the emails. It is just facts, and so just something to think about with all of that. So we are nearing towards the end. And one thing I do want to make sure we have each of you do, don't talk fast, take a breath, slow down, no rush, plenty of time, folks. But I would love if you could each share with an advice you would love to give students who are thinking about doing research with faculty mentors, which at the University of Utah, we highly encourage your mentorship teams include faculty because it can do letters of recommendations, and also they are the highest level of expertise oftentimes. And so I would love if we could start with America and come back this way. Look at the Zoom room and give your advice, and no rush.
Yeah, I would just say go for it, because I'm a big proponent of, I would have rather, applied to something or tried something and then been like, that's not for me, than to always be like, ooh, I wonder what would have happened. I wonder if I really would have liked that. Because remember that it's okay to say no, or that you don't like something, and you can pivot and move on from there. But getting the experience, if it's something that you think might be for you, try it and see if it is for you. And then if it is for you, great. Then you can move on and you can do other things in research. If it's not for you and you want to do something else, then you know that. And you can aim your education or your journey to life or whatever it is that you want to do towards or away from that experience.
I would say one piece of advice that I received when I first started research that has kind of stuck with me is from my grad student. And he said on like the first week, I was like whether I wrote class or did like math calculations wrong or something for my experiments. He was just super supportive, and he said that we want to get all the mistakes out right now. Like, we want all the mistakes, like make as much mistakes as you can right now so you don't make them in the future when it's like there's more on the line. And I think that was really important of just someone telling me that I can make as many mistakes as I want. There's no pressure to not. And then from then, I truly did learn so much, because once you do make a mistake, you do not forget those mistakes in chemistry. And so, yeah, I think that was just a piece of advice that I would really recommend to you.
The greatest piece of advice I could give is really truly just to find something that you're interested in, that you're passionate about, and then the opportunities will follow. Because if you are doing research and you absolutely hate it, I think it will show through in your work. The passion's not there, your energy's not there. People will notice that you don't want to be there. So the best thing you can do for yourself is just to keep trying to find something that's interesting to you. So my degree is in biology, and I am pre-med, and I've never done like wet lab research before. It just doesn't appeal to me. It's not that interesting. No offense.
Sure, great.
And that's totally fine. You know, there's not like a set plan you need to follow if you're going into a certain field. My research is just in bioethics, and that's totally fine. I love it. I have fun every time I meet with my lab, and just super happy to be where I'm at.
Yeah, I think one of the beautiful things about research is that it's like an environment to learn and to make mistakes, without having so many consequences of like a real job, or like being in class where you have specific deadlines. I really think like everyone should be involved in research, even if you don't like it, because there's a lot of technical skills that you can learn that can, transfer to whether you're going to this industry or whether you're just going to a job itself. There's a lot of those soft and technical skills that you learn, but also just, in terms of whether or not you like research, I think it's okay to not like the research you do. You may apply to lab thinking like, hey, this is like my field of interest. You end up trying it and it ends up not working out the way you want it to. So I think one of the most important things is just to keep an open mind when you have a research experience. With any sort of internship or with your PI, keep an open mind and be positive, and try to really learn what you're working with. Because there's been times where I felt like, okay, this is not really like what I want to do in my career, or not really what I'm interested in. So like, why did I learn this as much? But I think, those things that I have learned are actually coming back to me, like later on down the road. And so, even if it's not directly related to what you're actually interested in, there's always something that could be helpful towards both your career and like what you learn.
Yeah, and for some reason, I was thinking of Mr. Miyagi, wax on, wax off. You just never know when it can lead to something else. Karate Kid, no one likes Karate Kid. But one thing I do want to share, I would be remiss representing the Office of Undergraduate Research with these fine folks to also let folks know in the audience that it's never too early or too late to get started with research. At any point you're ready to really jump in, there's going to be many opportunities for you. We just want to remind our folks that for our students who are Europe scholars and Wilkes scholars is that you are required to fill out this event evaluation. We know that if you have your phone, you will, you can do QR code. But the other thing is Shelley will also share a link and has already shared a link just as a friendly reminder for you to fill out this event evaluation. We also want to remind you that if you want to get any kind of peer mentoring from these wonderful folks in this Zoom room who've been doing this presentation conversation, or these other folks who are not here who are also part of the team, you're welcome to visit our.utah.edu You can join our listserv, but you can also contact the office and visit our website to make an appointment for research advising to get the support that you need, whether it is a big or small problem or something you just want to know and you're curious. One thing you should know is that if there's any concerns with faculty or other kinds of things that feel really big, you are welcome to reach out to the office, and we're here really to support you to troubleshoot those problems. We really want to support all of our students and faculty mentors in having successful research mentoring experiences. So I want to thank our panelists. If there is a round of applause we could give in the Zoom room, we would. But thank you all for being here in the audience and in the room. And to all of you, we look forward to seeing you take our money from the Office of Undergraduate Research. All right.